Tonight, let's have a conversation about reviving Ghana Railways. I'm going to have a conversation with the sector minister, but I'm pretty sure you've noticed that over the last few days, we've been talking about that train in the background there, as you see on your screens. It came from Poland, and we were testing it, and it ran into an accident. That has generated a fair bit of controversy and some talkability also. I even noticed that our international media outlets have reported it. BBC in particular took interest in that. There's a reason for that, by the way, because we haven't seen this sort of train on our tracks in a long time. Some even argue that never have we seen that before. So when we invest so much in that, only for us to see that accident, then people get to talk about it. But there's a bigger picture that we'll focus on tonight. And the reason why I say that is that there is a master plan that is governing this entire process. And that is a very important point to observe indeed. It was originally done in 2013 and then revised in 2020. So the rail lines you see is not just one that was plucked out of the blue. It is part of a bigger plan. And that's a point I want to make. Because when we sit for a conversation, we want to delve into that. Of course, the controversy around the accident and everything else, we'll get into that. Just to clear where we are in repairs, etc., and who's going to bear the cost. We'll clear all that. But the original plan was a big one. And as you see on your screens there, if we look at the master plan, some 4,000 plus kilometers of railway, if you look at the master plan, it says is what we're going to do over the last 33 years. This government's job was to do its bit. And you've seen that controversy that the NDC have also thrown into the conversation. So who started this? And how much investment did they procure before they left power? Sami Jimfi had written about this, and we'll get to clear that up also, because this is important. Why? Because we are in an election year, and records are important. We'll clear that for you. But 21.5 billion is what it's going to cost us to implement the entire master plan. So this is a lot of money. If you look at it, however, the MPP manifesto also had a focus on railway. And they then decided to create a whole ministry for this because they wanted to make it a priority and invest in it. When we sit down to talk, we'll look at, did they really keep the promise when it comes to investments in the particular sector over the years? But we looked at the 12-kilometer of existing railway line that we know has been rehabilitated. Again, part of the focus between 2017 and 2022. That is work that has happened. You'll also look at the 12 modern trains that we now know have been brought in. I talked about that earlier from Poland. You see it in the background there. That is again part of the vision that we're told and sold to us in their manifesto. If you look at the 2016 manifesto and the 2020 manifesto, you see it in both plans that were sold to us. And this is the tema to Impakadan railway line, some 97 kilometers of railway line there. The NDC time, they had decided to do just over 80 kilometers, but would have terminated at their Kosomo port. And they raised issues about that. They raised issues about this one that has been implemented by the MPP going all the way to Impakadan, where they claim there is no port. And so they asked the question, if there's no port at the termination point, how do you bring goods back and forth? Okay, we'll clear that up when we sit for a conversation. And then the train was to be tested. During the test, we saw what happened, and the Railways Ministry has released the videos of the actual collision with this particular train from Poland that has led to the conversations about who is picking up the bill as far as the repairs are concerned. But more importantly is investment that have been made in there. If you look at it, tracking it, some 267 million was the last allocation that we know of in the budget in 2024, and that is a 57% decrease from 2023. And many may look at it and say it's a reflection of the economy right now. And so a lot of ministries are getting a cut in their budget. But I find this document that we also got a very interesting one because it gives you the breakdown. And I'll show you a picture of the vision to have that cross the Volta Lake that the ministry has been using as part of getting us to appreciate the work that they've done. So some $447 million is what it's going to cost us to do this 97 kilometers that we've been talking about. It alone came from the Exim Bank of India that's already been secured. The government extended that from, according to the NDC, from the previous administration. Again, we'll clear that when we sit for a conversation. But The status is 98.6% complete right now. And so when are we going to have full delivery? So you can join that ride. It was supposed to be completed in December 2023. And then I see this picture behind me there. It's a very beautiful picture of the railway line going across the Volta Lake. And this, from what I understand, it's some 300 meters across the Volta Lake. And it is 100% complete right now. And this will be quite an experience indeed, just to do that particular drive. But there are a few questions that we need to ask. And if you look at the pictures that I'll be showing you when we sit down for a conversation, you see the infrastructure that has been built, the quality of the railway lines, and the funding that has been secured for it. And then we also get to look at, okay, so with what we've seen so far, who is picking up the bill for the repairs, but how do you sustain it and make it economically viable? That's my conversation with the sector minister, John Peter Amewu, who is my guest in the studio. You don't want to go anywhere. That's him right there. And when I return from the break, we'll get to have the conversation and get the answers for you, answers to questions you've been asking over the last few days. Stay with us. And thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. My guest, as I said earlier, is the Minister for Railways Development. He is John Peter Amewu. Mr. Amewu, thanks for your time here on PM Express. Great to have you. It's been quite a while. Yeah. I'm happy that you can join us to talk about this matter that many are talking about, get some clarity for them. And as you know, PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Alumobitas experience greatness in every moment. Ghana AIDS Commission. Pepsodent, every smile matters as well. And no matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. Syntex Tanks is first introduced a double-layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tanks is first introduced you to the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce you to the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty, 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. Why don't you pick your phone and call them? They are on 0244 335-168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. A strong, a tough. And I always recommend Pepsodent for you because they have the pro-fluoride and microcalcium ingredients, sealing tiny and invisible holes in your teeth. It prevents cavities, keeps your teeth strong and mouth healthy. Pepsodent Cavity comes in 175G all the way down to 12G sachets. So you can always get what you can afford at any time. Pepsodent, every smile matters. Mr. Amewu, so let's start with where we are following that accident. Has the train now been fixed?
Thank you, Evans. The train is brought back to the maintenance yard in Tema. The Poland engineers have assessed the extent of damage, and plans are far advanced to fix the train. Technically, the train is very sound. The electronic system and the mechanical systems, with special regard to the engine, is untouched. I mean, it's very, very solid. Nothing wrong about the train. The front that we saw, the fenders at the front, they are slightly damaged, which will need to be replaced. So what the engineers did is to take inventory of those items and order them back from Poland to Ghana. Yeah.
Who's going to bear the cost?
As at the time of the incident, we have not taken ownership of the train. There was no transfer of ownership, which means that the supplier was still responsible for the train. We get ownership when government make a full payment. You know, we have not yet made a full payment through the LC. The LC went through Bank of Ghana for payment to be made. You know, so we haven't taken full control of the plane as owners of the plane. The contract agreement specification regarding and vis-a-vis leading to the transfer of ownership states specifically that until full payment is made and until the test run has been conducted and certified by a third party and handed over to the Ministry for on transfer to any of the agencies. So we have not taken a full delivery in terms of ownership of the train. The company in question, which for now we say is the owner, the VOAB, they supply the train, had made an arrangement for insurance. And my understanding is that an insurance company had insured the train. So, of course, it's left to the company to push in or trigger that clause for payment of the necessary insurance.
So Ghana is not going to bear the cost of
Not at all. Not at all. Ghana government is not bearing any cost, neither the ministry or any of its agencies.
And do we know how long this is going to take?
Maybe 2-3 weeks. I mean, yeah. The train is running. I mean, but we have to change that, fenders, as I mentioned earlier. So maximum, I think 3 weeks, we should be able to get the items back into Ghana. Easily can be airlifted, to speed up the process.
I'm sure you saw the question that was asked about the test run that we did. Did we inspect the track?
Yeah, normally there are boxes to tick during this process of test run. And this is the 306 inspection and test run being conducted by these Polish engineers. They said this was about the 306 for this year alone across the whole world. And they've never experienced this. So they have a system to follow. So there was, of course, the first was to send a rail track, which went ahead about 30 minutes. Early in the morning, they did an inspection across the whole line. And when they were able to set off 30 minutes, because the line, it's a new line, they put in the rail track. We have a rail track that is used for maintenance. That goes 30 minutes ahead of the train. So yes, the inspection has been done, and the necessary measures have been put in place before the commencement and the departure of the train from kilometer 0. So that's exactly what happened. So
the inspection that day showed that there was nothing on the track that was inhibiting the passage of the train?
Precisely, because they give a clearance that the line is free. And so the train and the rail track 30 minutes this time, because the train ran faster than the rail track. So they give an indication that the line is free, and it follows up. And you also saw that after the incident, the rail track had to move from Mpakadan, from kilometer 97 towards the scene, to push the other items out of the road. So those necessary precautions were taken, and this I expect the engineers, they've done this several times. It's not the first day that they're doing it in Ghana. So all those precautions were put in place.
And I'm sure that they've been briefed, I believe, thoroughly about what happened.
Precisely.
The braking system, though, I believe that the train would have a system that sort of alerts it as it proceeds a few meters ahead what the situation is. But also the braking system would allow it to sort of brake. What was the briefing that you received in terms of that system?
What I was told is that it was in a curve. And the minimum allowable distance for application of this braking system, I understand, is about 1 kilometer, So they've gone through the curve, and to where this particular vehicle was parked, of course, less than 100 kilometers. So on seeing the track, on the rail, there was an attempt. You can see, if you see the video, the operator actually made an attempt to, put in the braking system, which was done, but it was very close. You saw the distance. And so that runs into the track. So yes, of course, they tried to apply the brake, but it was very close to it. And you realize that the train comes to a halt, after the incident.
Okay. Does it have a radar system?
We don't have a radar system on this train to detect any obstacles on the line. What we have is a signaling. What the signaling does is to communicate between two trains, oncoming vehicles, and the other one, going in opposite direction. So we have that signaling system, on the line. But we don't have a radar to determine that there's an obstacle on the line. That we don't have. There are cameras that we have, but these cameras are also located only at the stations. We have about 8 beautiful stations constructed along this line. So the cameras are positioned along the stations. So it is extremely difficult for a train to move at kilometer 0, get to kilometer 20, and detect that there's an obstacle in kilometer 84, for example. That it's not installed on this train. We don't have that system.
Is it a function that we should have?
A radar system, I think it's something that we will do, because this a new train that we have brought in, and if you look at the infrastructure that have been built in Tema, it's modern, because the train can be shut down from the control center in Tema. We have built a very beautiful control where the train can be shut down if it detects that there's an oncoming train coming in the same direction. They can stop it instantaneously. That can happen. So, but what we don't have is the radar system that I've just spoke about. Yeah.
And do we know how much it's going to cost for the repairs?
Of this train, I have no idea, but I understand it's not quite extensive. Yeah.
And just clarify, I talked about 12 trains. This is one of two.
This particular one, this is what we call the diesel multiple unit. So you see the two sides, it can move in both directions. And so there are two coming in. This is the first one. The second one, it's coming by July. The other one we have, which arrangement has also been made, I think the district document has said a Ministry of Finance, is what we call the locomotives. The locals are for freight. But what we have here specifically, and what you saw on the train, that one is for passengers only. So this is just for passengers. The freight is what we are about to bring. And I think they are about 12 in numbers or so. That's the locomotives. Yeah.
So the total of 3 of this is what you're hoping to have?
The DMU, one is here. The other one is coming. Two.
So 2.
For passengers, only 2.
Okay.
It has a capacity of about 200 people.
And what's the cost of this?
The 2 understand that the value of the LC is about $15 million. So,
$15 million.
Yeah, so one may be approximately about 7.5. There have been some fluctuations, I was told, which total to about 1.5 million in addition. So total to that, we were looking at about $16 million or 16.5, if I'm right.
Finally, let me ask you on this matter. What do you make of the criticism that has been leveled against yourself? In fact, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, did a tweet on it, in which he raised the subject of the tracked inspection, for example, questioning why the rail was tested at a time when there wasn't proper testing done. There has been some criticism of the way this whole thing was handled. Do you accept that the engineers, the authorities that supervised this, failed us in the way that they ran this test?
I totally disagree with His Excellency John Mahama. I don't blame him. This is not his fault. Those guys who did this test run are experts. There are 16 engineers that were brought from Poland. This is 304, I was told, tests that they've conducted worldwide this year. And so I don't know His Excellency John Mahama where he's coming from with this understanding that no inspection has been done. As I clearly explained to you, they put in the system for inspection. A rail track was put ahead. Earlier on in the morning, they went around the whole line to see that there was no obstacle. 30 minutes this time before the takeoff of this DMU, the rail track, the maintenance track, was put ahead. So what is he saying when he said inspection?
This is what he says. How can you conduct a test run on the new railway line without the track inspection? How long had the vehicle been on the track before the test run? If I were president, I'll be asking some serious questions. The second question he asked...
Can I answer that question?
Yes.
I don't think he understood the question himself, his accent. Did he try to find out whether inspection was done as a former president? Did he make an effort before coming out with this? Sometimes some of us just refuse to talk because some of this statements being made by people at higher authority. If I'm a former president, I would never say this type of thing. Did he try? He knows me well. He could just find out from me from the office. Oh, my minister, my boy. Then we'll tell him the truth. He has not established that fact. And as a president, have an intention of coming to lead Ghanaians. And you come out with this sort of statement. I don't know. Surprisingly, this type of... I don't know how to describe it. But His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, this is below the belt. I am sorry. I give you all the kind of respect, but I expect you to find out first. This is below the belt. A former president, you are not even an engineer. These are 16 qualified engineers brought down from Poland. The inspection and the test run is not conducted by Ghana government.
This wasn't done by your ministry?
No. I told you that the contract specifications specify the time of transfer of ownership. So the train is not our train. We have not taken delivery, 100% ownership of the train.
But the track is yours?
The track is ours. We own the track.
So that's the point he's making, that if you own the track,
yeah,
then the inspection of the track will be your responsibility?
Yes, of course. And that has been done. What does it mean by inspection of track? Tell me, how is the track going to be inspected?
But he raises a second question linked to the first.
No, but I want to understand what he meant by the inspection of the track.
Well, he asked the question, how can you conduct a test run
without
on a new rail line without a track inspection?
So what is track inspection, John Mahama? The track inspection, what does it mean? It simply means that somebody or a maintenance vehicle goes along the track to see if there's any obstacle. That is how I understood it in our manual terms, because we don't have a radar system to be able to detect the track inspection through a radar system where you can be in a control room and see the whole line. We don't have that. So this manual track inspection that His Excellency is talking about was conducted. So I don't really know what...
When was it conducted?
The same day. And I'm telling you that engineers informed me that the rail track was 30 minutes ahead of the train. And so when the incident happened, where did the rail track come from? It comes from kilometer 97 back to the scene, kilometer 76 or so, to do the recovery, because they were ahead, about 30 minutes difference. You see, it is just a coincidence or an accident that I cannot explain. According to the gentleman, he came by, dropped his block or whatever, and in an attempt to go back, he decided to go over. I don't know what motive it is. I don't know. He's the best person to judge himself, but I'm saying that...
Some have suggested sabotage. You believe that?
Well, I mean, I'm not in a position to justify that. But where I can state clearly that the motive of just parking along the rail, it's very uncultured. I mean, it cannot be accepted in any modern civilization. That is where my problem is.
You said motive. You're questioning the motive.
Yes, that is what I'm questioning.
As in, you're questioning whether this was done deliberately.
Yeah, the intention, whether it's deliberate, but the intention, what prompted him to do that? He was saying that because I cannot go back through the underpass, I've decided to go over this. That thinking alone in itself is wrong. It's completely wrong. As good citizens of this country, we shouldn't do that. Okay, and that is why people could read any ill motive into it. But
the second question that John Mahama has, how long had the vehicle been on the track before the test run?
Well,
it's a valid question.
It's a valid question, and that is why all that I can answer that question is that according to my briefing and what I've gotten from the engineers, the rail track was about 30 minutes ahead of the DMU. Okay, so if you wanted to know how long, it would be extremely difficult, because what it meant is that the rail track had passed before
the vehicle crossed and parked there.
Yeah. And if you hear the guy said he was running back to the track. So it was done within a short period, because he was coming back when he heard that the accident had occurred. So it's within that, maybe a minimum of 30 minutes.
But isn't 30 minutes too much time?
The DMU moves at a speed of almost about 120, 150 kilometers per hour. I mean, but because of this test run, I understand they were going about 60 and 80. The rail track is a very slow-moving track. The last time on board, it was about 2-3 weeks ago when I had to go to Mpaka Dam for inspection. And so if that rail track is moving about 40, 60 kilometers, and this is doing about 90 kilometers, I don't think the time interval of 30 minutes is too long enough. I think it's okay to accommodate any unforeseen contingencies that may occur during that period.
Let's talk about the big picture, and there are a few questions around the big picture. This is part of a master plan.
Precisely.
That, from what we now know, revised in 2020, that you're implementing. How does it fit into the big picture? And what is the big picture?
The big picture is to revamp the railway sector in Ghana. You recollect that after a decade of underfunding in the industry, His Excellency President Kufuor, at that time, formed what we call the Ministry of Port, Railways and Harbour. The intention then was to put some level of focus on the railway sector. Because you agree with me, Evans, that the railway sector had totally been run down over this period by successive government until His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor come out with these innovations of forming this ministry, which was then a new ministry. Then they went ahead to decouple the role of a regulator from an operator. Either two, we have the Ghana Railway Company Limited operating. Then they come out with this Act 2008, 779, if I quite remember, that craft the Ghana Railway Development Authority as a regulator to be responsible for development and regulating the railway system. Now, either two, there were no specific plans about the railway, industry. So what His Excellency did at that time was to get this company called DAL, Hassan, if I quite DAL, DAL, at that time to conduct a feasibility studies in 2007, 2008 about the Tema Mpakadan. That time it was Tema Akosombo. So when I listen to people like, what's the name?
Sami Jemfi?
What?
Is it Sami Jemfi?
Well, I don't, the communicator of the...
Yes, it's National Communications
Okay,
Officer.
all right, well, I don't know. So when I listened to him saying that this was their baby, it's time that we stop misleading Ghana.
But isn't this their baby?
It cannot be their baby. I'm telling you that His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor brought this framework. And the feasibility studies was done. You cannot rule out the NDC that they do not do anything on that line. Of course, they play their role. Government is an ongoing, concern. Okay? So after His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor did this feasibility studies about this line, in 2008, when the feasibility studies was completed, the NDC came in. You cannot go and constitute a contract procurement process without any feasibility studies. Which feasibility study did they do? Did they conduct the NDC? So they went and took what President Kufuor did and built upon it. So yes, it's true, they came in based on President Kufuor's feasibility studies, formulate their policies, make the necessary procurement. Okay? But then the procurement the NDC did was to construct a rail line from Tema to Akosombo. When His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo came into power, he looked at it and he said, I am going to put more attention on railway. Then he came and put it in the Ministry of Railway Development. They look at the NDC's contract and their procurement processes and said, well, this cannot go to Akosombo because of the dam. The engineers, therefore, made, other pronouncement that if the line is constructed through Akosombo, the integrity of the dam, it's likely to be compromised. Then the minister...
engineers told you that in 2017?
Yes, of course, when the then minister, my very good friend, Joe Gatti. So he came and reviewed the whole process. I said, well, then we need to go through... But
these same engineers advised the NDC administration and told them to terminate it at Akosombo Port.
Well, but when we took over, my predecessor took over, the understanding was that it would not be very viable to bring this train breaking through those rocks to the Akosombo.
Wait, is it viable? Yeah. Is it economically viable?
Economically, number one, and also safety issues of the dam, because the safety of the dam was then a concern. And also economically, I mean, there is no need to just to end it at Akosombo. It doesn't make any sense. Because government agenda of the master plan is to send railway line to every regional capital. His Excellency President Akufo-Addo insists on that there must be a branch line to every region. So when I listen to Sami Jemfi, for instance, saying that a railway to nowhere, he's not respecting the people from Volta region. And I don't blame him.
But why do you say that? Because if it was...
No, he was because the railway was going through Volta region. He was going to my region. His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo insisted on.
But their plan would have terminated Akosombo, which is part of the region.
Akosombo is not part of Volta region. Akosombo is in Eastern region. And for him to come out saying he doesn't understand why the railway line should go through Volta region is an insult to we the people of Volta region. I am telling you, with that line now entering Volta region, it's going to be shorter for people to move from Ho, alight it somewhere, and then take a train and come to Accra because of the traffic density, within the Shama belt. So Sammy Gyamfi should be extremely careful when he makes such comments. But it's not healthy for Ghanaians.
But however, they secured the $398 million from the Exim Bank for this project. True or false?
It's true.
So this is a government that clearly had handed you an already cooked...
No.
You simply
loan securement process is not a conclusive index of a construction beginning.
But
the XTS project we know...
Securing the funds is 90% of
it's not.
Without funds, you have no project.
No. Securing the funds is part, but it's not a critical
It is a primary, most critical.
I am telling you, the XTS funds has been secure. Do we have the project? Have you seen the project being done? XTS project that we know. So it is not the securing of the funds.
But in this case,
I'm coming.
Considering how the railway sector, you say, had been neglected, right? For a government, for so long, you just made a point, for a government to not only make it a priority, taking the baton from John Kufuor, but go the extra mile to secure 398, and I believe it's unprecedented.
Of course, but at that time...
But you have to acknowledge
that. When I made my statement, I said government is an going concern. I give them the credit for whatever they're doing or whatever they've done. They start from President Kufuor, isn't it? They built on it. Yeah. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came and done marvelously well upon what they have also done. But let me make this point very clear. The 333 or so that they...
338 million.
Yes, that they secure was not for the project we're doing. The project we're doing now is Tema Mpakana, which has the first ever rail bridge of this kind in the sub-region. 300 meters.
You mean their plan didn't include
it? It didn't include the rail bridge that we
But it was going to Akosum or terminating there. You definitely would have...
Never. It's not in their contract.
It didn't encounter the lake at all.
They were going to go behind, and that's why the engineer says that. Because they were going to go through that, outcrop of hill that we have. And that's why they said the integrity of the dam cannot be guaranteed if they have to go there. And when we looked at the document, my predecessor looked at the document. He said, of course, nobody, because they asked that, well, if you think that is safe, go in. And Jogate then could not, accept that status, and therefore came back to Cabinet to ask for a review of the document. So Cabinet approval was therefore granted again. Okay, so we have a new Cabinet approval, a new parliamentary approval for this particular project. It was not the NDC parliamentary and Cabinet approval that we welcomed. But I quite remember, I was then the Minister of Energy. Jogate was at Ray. He came to Parliament, Cabinet to seek that approval from His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
But it's the same.
That was when Nana insisted that the rail must go through every regional capital. So it was a completely new Cabinet and parliamentary approval for this. And you can see that their original contract was in the total length of about 84
kilometers.
This is 98 kilometers, almost 100 kilometers.
Yes.
So it's two different contracts.
But same source.
The source of the loan,
same source.
Precisely.
Same source.
Same source. Yes. There's nothing wrong about it.
In fact, you added some 48 million to the original figure.
Precisely.
To extend it, obviously.
To extend it because of
the 97 kilometers
and also
that you were doing.
The rail bridge, the beautiful rail bridge that you saw.
Yeah. So you got a different Cabinet approval, but you use the MPP source of funding. NDC source of funding.
Yes, the same source of funding. Yeah.
So you definitely must significantly credit them for the work that they've done.
I'm not trying to discredit what they've done, but I'm trying.
And the significance of what they did and left behind.
Yes, but I'm trying to discredit what the gentleman said. What did you say his name?
Sammy Gyamfi?
Yes, what he said. That's what I'm trying to discredit. That what he said is a complete rundown on people from Volta region, that the line goes to nowhere. We in Volta region are not living.
But substantively, his point was that it was going to be terminating at the Kosomo port.
Precisely.
That would place focus on goods, freight, etc., moving to and from.
Yeah.
We are talking about the economic viability of this track.
Yeah.
You're investing 398 million on the project. And if you have a port there, then allows you to obviously do the transportation of these goods and it becomes economically viable. But as it stands now with yours, the Impankadam termination has no port there. So you're then only going to be transporting passengers.
Yeah. Look at what
how does that make that investment economically viable? That's his point about
there is current
a track to nowhere.
Yeah, I understand what he's coming from, but because of ignorance. The Tema Mpakadan, the last kilometer of this project, has a terminal which runs down as a port. They're going to use it as a port.
Where
okay.
At Mpakadan?
At Mpakadan. We can show you the pictures, maybe if you have the pictures. Okay, so it is not anything different from what he is talking about.
So you're building a port, or the port is already there?
The port is going to be built there.
Okay.
Yeah, there are all plans to build a port there. Nobody was just taking the line to that end. Otherwise, why would you send a train line to an end of another section close to a river? For what? The intention was to put a port there. And all the feasibility studies, everything has been done by that company, TMI, if I'm quite right, to put out a port. Just a small port to enable the goods to be discharged, offload, and put it back on the barge. So that is in the program. So you cannot say, therefore, that the railway line is leading to anywhere. The intention of this government is to phase out this project. The first one is what we're saying, which is the passenger freight, which is very key and very important for it. Then from the passenger, we move on to the freight. And the freights, that's the one coming out with the locomotives. Those who run based on the port arrangement. So it is a rail line with very viable understanding in terms of gain and investment on this project.
The port is about to be built?
Yes.
You haven't started yet?
TMI, a company called TMI, it's going to be...
It's a separate contract?
It's a separate contract.
It's not part
of... But it's working with the Ministry of Transport, that is not directly under my ministry. It's working.
So this is not part of the 400 million plus you secured from the Exim Bank?
No, this is not part. But what we have done there, I think you should have a time to visit there. We have created the platform for a very big platform. If you go there, you even think like it's already a port. Very beautiful. When we're doing the commission, I'll invite you to come and look at it.
But it's definitely... Do we know how much this port is going to cost us to build?
I'll have to speak to my colleague minister from transport.
Okay.
They are handling that project.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we speak right now, it hasn't begun.
It hasn't been built. Yeah.
The locomotive trains that you wanted to buy, has that been factored into the amount of money that you're using, the 400 million plus?
Locomotive? No, it's a separate.
It's separate. So you have to source for additional funding for that.
Yes, additional funding for that. And I think that had gone through cabinet. It's already at finance, and they're waiting for finance approval. It's been procured by some Chinese company. Yeah.
Okay. So the locomotive trains that will then transport the goods.
They'll go by goods.
Freight.
Yeah.
Have already been approved by Parliament. The purchase has been approved by Parliament.
Did it go to... I know cabinet...
Sorry. I meant cabinet.
Yes,
I meant cabinet.
But I'm not quite sure of parliamentary approval.
What I meant was cabinet. Cabinet's already approved.
Yes.
Okay, and it's gone to the finance ministry.
Yes.
What about the construction of the port?
The construction of the port, as I stated earlier, is a discussion between my colleague Minister of Transport and the TLMI, one of the...
Has cabinet considered it already?
Yes, I think it came to cabinet. Yes.
Are there any timelines you know?
No, I have no idea about a timeline.
But the locomotives also, do you have a timeline for delivery?
The locomotives, because of the, you are aware, the financial difficulties that we got involved in, I think that delay the approval from the Ministry of Finance. But they've gone very far.
So let me ask you about the financial viability then of this investment that we currently have. What makes it financially viable?
Train is a social service. All over the world, passenger services in trains are not good investment in terms of return on investment. It's always been subsidized by government. All the trains that you see running on passenger basis, it's very, very difficult to get quite a good return on your investment if you have to rely only on passengers. And that is why most of the stations or the lines comes along with the freight, which is the locomotives. That gives a drive,
That's where you make the money.
That's why you make the money. So the viability gap is being covered by the application of the freight. On the Western line, as we're seeing happening now, the understanding is that when we start the haulage of bauxite, that will cover for, the freight that will come along the line, currently being constructed by Amandi. So passenger services on train lines are not, it's not a profitable venture. But what it does is that it has a multiplier effect in terms of its impact on the economy. Workers are sent quicker to their point of destinations. They're able to move to work and do things quickly and return. So diminishing on the intensity of traffic density, the route in terms of the lifespan will be projected. So these are some of the things that you don't see physically. But if you factored it into the gains, then you realize that, it's worth doing it. But you don't really get a return in terms of profit. We did some analysis, for instance, by using, I think, a maximum of about 200 people, running a day for, and it's not much. We're making quite close to about, I think about 500,000, 536,000 a month. But the cost is in excess. The cost is about 700,000. So it means there's still a viability.
Because if you look at it, you have to maintain it.
You have to maintain,
right? And you're not making enough money.
No.
How do you maintain it? Yeah. How do you run this sustainably?
And that is why all over the world, governments get involved in the operation of a passenger train in terms of services, by closing that viability gap. Because this one, we're going to buy fuel.
Absolutely.
We're going to buy fuel. We're going to employ workers. And we have built at least about 8 stations on the line. We're going to put people there.
So guaranteed it will run at a loss?
Definitely, there's not going to be, it's not a profitable venture as I stated it, based on the studies that we've conducted. You're not going to make one city, for passengers. But when you start running the freight, the expectation is that gain from the freight will cover this viability gap that we're seeing in the passenger round.
That is the NDC's point to you, that their focus was build the port and let it terminate there, because you need to sustain it, it needs to pay for itself. And so the focus was build it and build the port.
That is exactly what we're doing. So I don't understand
except that the argument to you...
There is a port...
The argument to you is that you've built the passenger transportation means,
yes,
which obviously will run out of laws, and then you're going to incur these losses, and the challenge will become taking care of itself.
The laws that you're talking about is a physical laws that you see. I'm telling you about the multiplier effect in terms of the economic consequences in running a passenger train.
Wouldn't you have been better to build the port and then launch both together? Because then that way you make money to take care of...
Of course, you have built the lines. You spend a lot of money building the lines. You don't want to wait for another 4 or 5 years to finish the port before you put the lines on to run it. Passengers need to be cut from one end to another. The lines are there, the train is there. You couldn't decide to wait, for a longer period till you finish the port.
If I put it to you that part of it is a political consideration, what would you say to that? That this was done purely, obviously, an election year, this can be a good vote-winning mechanism.
If it's a good winning mechanism, what's wrong with it? Everybody in every country runs on politics. I am a politician. I'm here to govern the people and work in accordance with their dictates. And so if I'm doing something and it's political, what is wrong about it? Yes, it's for politics. And the people are happy. If you don't work on politics, how do you get this developed? Today, for the first time in the history of this country, the NDC, especially in where I come from, they're trying to do things that I do. That has never been done. Would they say because it's politics? Yes. And that is why any environment that generates an element of competition always leads to growth. So yes, it's politics, and it's helping us.
The only challenge there is the conversation we just had. Yes, it's politics, but is it one that would in the long term and serve the big picture of financial viability, for example?
The big picture.
Yes, it's more politics than delivering on the financial viability.
The big picture for a train running through a volatile region, through Kpong and other places to Accra, is to move the people quicker to their various...
Even if it's not self-sustaining?
Even if it's not self-sustaining, I'm telling you the multiplier effect of undertaking that activity. That is what we are looking at.
But then you run the risk of it struggling.
No, not necessarily.
And possibly shutting down.
Not necessarily. When there is a jump in economic growth, as a result of some economic activities. That is why it says that government can make money as a result of that jump and subsidize. This is not the first time government will subsidize. Look, we still run a train from Accra to Tema. We run in, Takoradi. I mean, they are all not profitable, but we keep on doing it because it's a service to the people. Passenger freight, it's a service. You must look at it as service. Just like government goes to construct road. Government is not constructing road from Accra to Howe to make money. That is not the intention. Government is constructing the road from Howe to Accra to expand the economy. So it is the economic expansion and the multiplier effect that we're looking at. And that is what pays for the investment.
You remember that now the government is actually in the budget reintroducing tolls under the PPP arrangement because they realized that you need the money to maintain
the roads. Of course, some money, but that money cannot even...
So that's the question to you then.
That money cannot, it's not, it's just
maintaining the rail track, and it's far more expensive here because you are buying the fuel, maintaining the rail track, you're employing people. You need to sustain that to control the benefits.
The advantage is that the rail track or the train, the lines, it can last for over 50 years. Look, most of the roads that we build, what's the lifespan of this road? The lines that have been built by our colonial masters, we have still seen them working. So the economic impact for a long time period, if you spread that investment evenly over the lifespan of the investment, in the lifespan of the rail line, you realize that it's profitable.
It pays for itself.
It pays for itself over that long time. Look, the consequences of the traffic density from Afariwa through Afienya down to Akosombo, it's unbelievable. You cannot just imagine how people go through that traffic on a daily basis. You spend no less than 3 hours within that short distance. Okay? With this, the train can make less than an hour.
To Pakadan?
Yes, of course. Less than an hour to Pakadan.
And there are stops along the road?
There are stops along. It can make less than an hour. And could you just imagine the economic significance and the impact that will, carry across? That is what we are looking at. We are looking at the bigger picture. So for my good friend coming out to say it is not profitable, nobody runs, passenger train to make any return on investment. You looked at it in the long run. You look at it, from a different perspective. The implications of undertaking that investment, the savings you are making in destroying your roads, those are the areas that you have to look at.
Let's talk about the rest of the lines, because from what I understand, this is part of the railway line going to Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso, yeah.
Yes. So will this be as far as you go, or there's plans to extend this further? This
railway terminates at precisely Burkina Faso. It goes through the Akpafu, the iron ore in Akpafu in the Oti region, Sheni iron ore in the northern part, before going through Tamale to branch to Tamale to Burkina. So it's this is the first of its kind that we have this cross boundary discussions between two countries in terms of this line. So I quite remember the then president, the democratic president of Burkina, constantly visited
before the military intervention.
Before the military takeover, constantly with His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo to discuss this joint venture. So this was going to be a novel. What also triggers the slow rate of the process of the military takeover, which is number one, and also number two, it's becoming extremely difficult for those who were undertaking the project because they were going to run it on BOT basis. And this was going to be done solely because the Burkinabes were looking at freight. Okay? Only. They were looking at freight. And the investor was...
Because they're landlocked, right?
They're a landlocked country, so it's shorter to move their goods.
But that would be profitable.
Yes. But there was still some viability gap. So the designers of the track, team engineering, they came back. We had to shorten the line by, I think, quite close to about additional 60 to 70 kilometers, to make the line, the shorter it is, the less the cost, and the more profitable it becomes. So that was also done. And it was arranged that same time that we have this military takeover. So the discussion is ongoing. It has been well designed, and it terminates at Burkina Faso.
As we wrap up, what do you hope to be remembered by as the railways minister? What do you think your legacy
As a railway minister?
Yes. You've
done
been
a
there
lot
for so long.
We've done a lot.
You have an election year, so whatever happens after December 7, your job will terminate.
Yeah.
Even if your government wins, it terminates by constitution on Monday.
You're right.
What's your legacy? What do you think your legacy will be?
What you're seeing now, the DMU, the new lines. If you go to Western Region, we're doing about 78 kilometers of rail, that Amandi. We have done, the Manso Kojo Chrome section, which is also about 22 kilometers. And then Amandi is doing the 78 kilometers to Huni Valley, Manso Huni Valley. Very beautiful, one. The Temampakadan that you've seen, the bringing in of these new trains, the coming in of the locomotives, we put in plans. And we've done a lot. We tried to revise the master plan. Several feasibility studies have been done. We've done the ECOWAS line, which moves from Togo to Ivory Coast. There's supposed to be one.
So you've laid the tracks?
No, we've done the feasibility studies on that. Okay. We've done the central spine, a lot of work has been done. We've been quite quiet for some time, but at the right time, we will bring them out for you to see.
Well, you are talking now.
Yeah.
But your primary legacy, I believe, will be this Temanten Pakadan one.
Precisely, and then many more. The one Amandi is doing, it's not 100% completed, but very beautiful one.
And that links which cities?
That moves from Manso Huni Valley to the bauxite areas.
So that's freight?
Yes, that's going to be freight, yeah. It's going to be free.
That will pay for itself, I believe.
Definitely free to pay, especially the ones on the bauxite.
Build, operate, and transfer?
Yes, supposed to be built, operate, and transfer. Government has done certain section. We're discussing with some South African company in collaboration with Talo DB to do BOT, some form of construction management services for us. Discussions have gone very far. We're waiting for sign off in terms of the closure or the financial closure. When that happens, that whole section, will also be completed.
What about the Sky Train? What happened to it? I haven't heard you mention it as part of the things.
The Sky Train.
Have we abandoned it?
I think for now, it doesn't look that's something we can do very shortly. So discussions are quite slow on it. But the discussion mainly is being championed by Ministry of Finance. So I will get back to my colleague minister.
Would you say it's abandoned now? The focus is elsewhere. It's not
priority. Progress is extremely slow. Progress is extremely slow.
Yeah. And finally, you did a miracle in 2020. Won a seat in Hohoi when everybody said it was impossible. You did the impossible.
No, people believe it's possible.
Well,
Safo was one of the...
You won it, so now we know it's possible.
It was for 3 days.
You believe you will retain it?
Of course, it's already been retained.
I see.
Yes. You see, it's easy for anybody to go to Kumasi, NDC, to win seat in MPP strong areas. The mentality and the concept of Ghanaians is far beyond, I am a tiglinyi, or I am an elephant, or I am an umbrella, or whatever it is. Ghanaians are thinking very, very fast, especially my people from Hohoi. They understand politics. They understand what politics mean in terms of development. Okay? And so for me, I always tell people that when the NDC come and tell them, oh, the seat is ours, we will take it back. I laugh at them. Because it's not possible. As for Hohoi, I don't know, unless I said I don't want to contest.
Okay.
But the problem again is that I don't want to stay for so long. Maybe somebody should also have come one time.
How many times?
Oh, maybe I'll do my second term. I mean, this seat, I've already won the seat. I mean, it's clear. I want to do this and then see. Maybe, yeah.
That's Jean-Pierre Amewu, and grateful that you joined us.
Thank you so much, Ivan.
Thanks for coming.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah.